Hmm?
This is the June 17th, 2026 meeting of the Clark County Charter Review Commission. Welcome to commissioners, county staff, and members of the public. Would you please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ottaguame.
Present.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Present.
Commissioner LeBrant.
Here.
Chair Erickson.
Here.
Secretary Garber.
Here.
Commissioner Chrisley.
Here.
Commissioner Landisberg.
Here.
Commissioner Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Gasquet.
Here.
Commissioner Holmgren.
Here.
Commissioner Benton.
Here.
Vice Chair Haas.
Here.
And Commissioner Silliman.
Present.
Commissioner Jay is not here. So we have 2 absent, 13 present.
Okay, thank you. So with 13 present, we do have a quorum, and under our bylaws, it will require 7 affirmative votes to approve a motion today. We'll next seek approval of our agenda. There's one proposed revision from the executive committee. We would like to introduce a new business item C, which would be a continuation of our earlier discussion on number of amendments to send to the ballot. Are there any other proposed revisions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the revised agenda?
Commissioner LeBrant, I will move that we adopt the amended agenda.
Second, Chrisley.
It's moved and seconded to adopt the revised agenda. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, it's approved. We'll next move to open public comment. Michelle, do we have anyone signed up?
We don't have anybody signed up in the room, but we do have a couple online. One of those being Amber Smith, who I'm going to go ahead and unmute, but if you want to read your statement first.
Yep, I'll read this statement first, then we'll move to comments. Clark County Charter Review Commission welcomes and encourages public comment. Public comment provides an opportunity for members of the community to share input with the Charter Review Commission. Comment should focus on issues relevant to the commission's responsibilities. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. The microphone will be automatically turned off once the time limit is reached. The commission will listen to comments but will not engage in discussion during public comment period. During public comment, speakers are asked to keep remarks respectful and focused on commission business. Remarks concerning private activities or beliefs of others, individual county employees or elected officials, matters unrelated to the work of the commission fall outside the purpose of public comment. Disruptive, uncivil, or defamatory conduct is not permitted. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this process.
Amber, I've sent you a request to unmute. If you want to go ahead and do so and go ahead with your comment.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Again, this is Amber Smith, Chief of Civil for Clark County. I apologize for bringing comment before you under public comment and not under staff reports. I have another commitment this evening, and I wanted to make sure that I upheld my promise to be able to come in and give an additional clarification piece to you with respect to one of the proposals that you'll be receiving. Ms. Gasquet's proposed amendment next week will have 2 pieces of legal advice that are attached to that. One from Ms. Joma from my office and also Mr. McDowell from my office. And I just wanted to be able to provide as a point of clarity for all of you And for context with respect to that, that the legal advice that you receive from both Ms. Joma and Mr. McDowell, you can take both in equal consideration. One does not negate the other. In this circumstance, there will be two separate individuals that are working on this. So you'll be able to look at both of those holistically in any decisions that you make. But just to help avoid any confusion or delay, because that proposal will be different than the other ones that you've seen previously with respect to the legal advice that is given. I just wanted to give you that clarity and any opportunity if you had comments for that, understanding that this is public comment and you don't normally engage in dialogue. But I will leave it at that, and thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you. Given the unique nature of your comment and your role with the Charter Review Commission, I think it would be appropriate with our remaining time if there are any questions from the members of the commission for Amber. Okay, I don't see any. Amber, thank you very much.
Thank you again, everyone. Have an excellent evening.
We have another online person. Bradley, you've been sent a request to unmute. Go ahead and do so. Please state your full name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
My name is Bradley Branham. I'm District 5. I hope everyone is well tonight. As to 2637, I commend the sponsor and the study committee for their foresight and statesmanship in transforming the proposed amendment from established quasi-judicial function within the legislative branch to a narrowly tailored authorization for investigations in support of legislative duties. As to the cage match, also known as the Clark County politics, during the current term of the Clark County Charter Review Commission, at least two significant controversies have arisen, each marked by political maneuvering and allegations of institutional weaponization. One proposed amendment, scheduled for consideration in 2027, seeks to limit undue influence by county executives. The other concerns the county's distinction as the first home rule county in which in the state of Washington, in which a counselor's lawsuit alleging violations of the First and 14th Amendment and criminal charges pursued by a neighboring jurisdiction were dismissed in its entirety as a matter of law. Political science provides the following criteria for weaponization determination: using legal or institutional tools to achieve political outcomes, escalating political disputes into legal arenas, using complaints and investigations to pressure or delegitimize opponents. Legal ethicists provide following criteria for weaponization or lawfare determination: filing claims with no legal basis, using legal processes for ulterior motives, harassing or burdening opponents through legal means, misusing ethics or criminal systems for political gain. Please consider adopting 2027 amendments that prohibit the use of governmental authority for political weaponization or lawfare, including the intentional enlistment of political activists for such purposes. You guys do a wonderful job, and I thank you very much, and that's all I got.
Thank you.
Chair, it looks like we have another hand raised. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
All right. Margaret Tweet, can you hear me?
Yes, Margaret.
Okay. I heard earlier today that my comments couldn't be heard, so thank you. I am commenting today on a push from some Clark County counselors to change the rules in your process and get another amendment going that they're proposing today, but they're not on this commission, and all of you are. So for all of the amendments that you're considering, they've gone through several reiterations and study sessions and processes for this whole period since January, I believe. And now at the last minute proposing another amendment, there's no time for the study. But one of the things that concerns me is it's to put in the prosecuting attorney's opinions on ballots and petitions, and also the financial opinions of the budget office on petitions and ballots. This has been proposed in 2022 and the voters rejected it, and in 2024 and the voters rejected it. And I was on the committee arguing against this very thing. The initiative process is crucial for self-governance, and expanding government review powers beyond what state and federal law requires would shift decision-making away from the public and concentrate it in the hands of a few. This is not about improving the system, but about consolidating power and making grassroots efforts more difficult. So I firmly oppose it, as have Clark County voters twice. And why would we go beyond what is required by state law as it is? So that's my opinion on that. It's too late for it. And I believe one of their advisors said that they couldn't be made and forced to put their amendment on through your process. And I hope that you won't consider at this late date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, that concludes public comment. And for the record, Commissioner Jay has joined us online.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Jay. We now have 14 in attendance, and again, according to our bylaws, that would now require 8 affirmative votes to approve a motion. We'll next seek approval of our minutes from the June 10th, 2026 meeting. Make sure you have the minutes in front of you. Are there any proposed revisions? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the minutes in their current format?
Chrisley, make a motion to approve minutes in their current format.
Second, Benton.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any opposed? And seeing none, they are approved. I would just take one minute to comment that we haven't had a lot of changes to our minutes. And I want to give credit to both the staff and Secretary Garber, who go over our meeting recordings in detail and make sure that our minutes are accurate. And I think that's reflected in the minimal revisions that we've incurred to our minutes over the course of our meetings. Okay, we'll next move on to executive committee reports. We'll begin with Vice Chair Haas, please.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Secretary Garber, please.
I have a couple of items. The first one, if Michelle, if you could bring that up on screen. I just wanted to point out our budget, and so far we have spent $988.98. We have not received a bill yet for our Scrivener, but we are doing really good on our budget. You can see that we're being very fiscally responsible, and just wanted to share that information with you all. If you want a copy of it, I can send it all to you so we can share that on. The other item, I went to the District 3 Town Hall on Sunday, and I just wanted to thank the commissioners they did a wonderful job. And I think they had about maybe just a little under 20 people, but there were a lot of really good questions, and they did a fantastic job. And so that does really wrap up our town halls. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. And I have no updates to offer, so we'll move on to committee reports, and we'll start with the Public Outreach Committee. Commissioner Holmgren, please.
Okay. So I do have, there's a document in the, what section? In the report section that I'd like to talk about, but I want to get to that last, just to do a couple of updates on the town halls and the work of the Public Outreach Committee. So like Commissioner Garber said, we have completed the town halls. Thank you to everybody who participated and was able to make it. I think, at least for all the people who were in attendance, they really appreciated that their district commissioners were there. I'm glad that we were able to coordinate and make it work, that basically everybody was able to attend their own district town hall. And especially thank you to Commissioners Garber and Erickson, who were both able to attend many of the additional town halls as well. And I think it was very helpful to have executive committee members there to answer some other additional questions when they were necessary. We are still collecting feedback from the public outreach comment form. If you know of groups or organizations that are keeping track of the work that we're doing, I think it would be helpful to indicate to them that, those reports that I'm sending out every week, that you are getting with the printed out copy of the comments, that information we're going to continue to do up until our July 8th meeting. I am hoping that you all have access to the comments from everything by like July 6th. So reach out to any organization that's tracking this information, let them know, fill out those public comment forms in advance of that July 8th meeting if they want to have their comments included in the information that we are going to be considering. In addition to that, we are planning on doing another round of town halls in the fall. Those will have a different purpose than these town halls. It will be less about collecting feedback on the current proposals, and then will be more about informing people about what the proposals that are on the ballot do, like what the effect would be if they passed. It also would be for collecting information about potential future proposals. So one of the things that the Public Outreach Committee at the last Charter Review Commission did was they created an FAQ document. If you are the chair of a study committee, the sponsor of a proposal, be thinking about what the common questions that you have received are and maybe what responses are. We on the Public Outreach Committee have talked about it, and we want to, we need to make these as neutral as possible. So we will be drafting the questions and the responses, but we will want to have your feedback to make sure that those are accurate, make sure that we're appropriately describing each of the proposals. And since you are the most expert person on it, we will be, seeking your feedback on any responses. Also throughout the summer, we will be continuing to meet at least somewhat regularly with the goal of planning and scheduling those town halls. So you will be getting additional requests of things like, what's your availability? When would you prefer to be having this in your district? Is there another location that you would prefer to have it versus the one that we did last time? Especially for the 2 locations where we did have to pay, we might want to see if there's a possibility of finding a free alternative, which, for the library downtown, that would just be not doing it first thing in the morning. So we need them to open up early. But maybe in District 5, there's another location that you all know about that would be preferable. So those are all those general thoughts. Moving on to, I guess, are there any questions before we move on to the speaking guidance document about public outreach? Okay. So then we've been working on creating a document that gives some kind of general rules and guidance for speaking events and requests for speaking. This is based off of some of the work that the last Charter Review Commission did with some edits, obviously, for our process. This is just something for you to consider, to take a look at. We can, in a future meeting, choose to adopt this as the standard guidance, but that is not the request for today. It's more of an opportunity for you to get a look at it, for us to have a discussion, and then we can come back and have that vote to adopt these in the future when we've had a chance to make revisions.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmgren. And again, thank you to the Public Outreach Committee. You've done great work and appreciate all that is yet to be done as well. Just to clarify, so the document that's before us today, and there's multiple pages, there's a lot of content. We're not looking to make a motion to approve this, but you are open to receiving comments for over prospective revisions today or answer questions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then perhaps next week we can come back and perhaps entertain a motion to approve this. Commissioners, are there any comments, questions, proposed revisions to this document? Commissioner Adegwame, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Holmgren and the Public Outreach Committee. Just wanted to say I found the table very helpful. That sort of lists each event by type. My only request would be more of a formatting one, which is just breaking this into a bit more of a palatable step-by-step for those who are looking to, okay, I have an engagement that's coming up. What are the things that I need to do and check off? I appreciate the inclusion of the relevant RCW and the WAC sections. I think that's really helpful. But maybe just placing these sections kind of more in line with how you might read them as a general sort of guidebook or pamphlet. It seemed like it was a bit things that might have been good to think about when looking at one section were down in another. And so that's really my only feedback, is just how it's put together and the layout more so than anything. I appreciate this and I think it looks really helpful.
Great, thank you. We'll have a conversation about formatting.
I have one comment. There's a lot of good references in here to coordination between Public Outreach Committee, commissioners who are speaking, the Executive Committee. That's all good and appropriate. It might be helpful to put a little definition to what that coordination looks like. Is it the Outreach Committee, or is it the Executive Committee, or is it both? So that there isn't confusion over that. And what does that coordination look like? Especially in the fall when we're not regularly meeting. Commissioners, are there any other comments or questions on this document? Okay, we will bring this back next week for further discussion and perhaps approval. Commissioner Holmgren, did you have more?
Just one thing is, I know that you maybe didn't have a chance to look at this closely in advance of today's meeting. I don't, if you can try to provide any comments by the end of the day tomorrow, we will be meeting on Friday as the public outreach, or no, we won't be meeting on Friday as the public outreach committee because of the holiday. We'll be meeting at some point. So try to get it to me by the end of the week if you have comments or things that you want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to updates from study committees, and we have one. 2615, Commissioner Gasquet, please.
Yeah, we're waiting on that second legal review. So that's the only update.
Kevin, welcome back. We appreciate your participation in providing that review.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll next move on to drafting committee. Commissioner Landisberg, please.
The committee's moving along. We've kept up with all the amendments as they come in. We're waiting on Kyla, the scrivener, to still do 2 more. And we're ready to keep moving as see what happens today.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Klein.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner, how many are ready to go into the vault? Are we up to 8 now that are finished and ready from the drafting committee perspective?
Patrick, Commissioner Adegwame has created a folder when they're totally through the process.
That's correct.
And you have what, 5?
I think there are 5 that have gone all the way through. Once we get through the next batch that we've sent her, I think that'll bump us up somewhere close to 8, looking at Commissioner Garber to double check my math on that. So once that next round of review is done, I think we'll be at 8. And then ideally after today's results, we'll either be able to send all of the rest minus those that haven't presented yet. But yeah, I think we're at 5 thus far in the vault, as you termed it, Commissioner Klein.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, move to comments by county staff. Michelle, is there anything that you have to share with us?
Just a reminder that I am out next week, and this week is a short week. So any documents that you can get to me that I can get draftly posted, and then Rebecca will do the final posting on Monday, the 22nd. While I'm out, Jake will be here on Wednesday evening. And then just, I also, the signed contract with Sound Solutions has been attached to the supplier in our workday, how we pay our bills, and everything is attached. Everything is ready to go. Once she sends invoices, they can flow through now.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Kathleen, please.
I have two quick things. One, I just wanted to close the loop on the Teams licenses that was approved yesterday in the budget for 11 licenses, 8 for the chair subcommittees and 3 for the executive committee. So that has been taken care of by council. The second one, I just wanted to bring up, just because a question was asked last week regarding the council charter amendments. They did have a discussion today. The council will not be moving forward with any charter amendments this year. With that said, there will be a letter coming to this commission, I anticipate next week, from the council or 4 counselors to present some information to the commission for your information and consideration.
Thank you, Kathleen. Johnny, please.
Yeah, just one thing. I am working on a news release for your public meeting for July 8th. Most of the way finished with it, and I should have it out to you guys tomorrow for your review. That's it.
And the public notice, has it been published? Is it going out tomorrow?
Oh, thank you. I don't know why that's not on my list. That was a big one. The the public notice has gone out. You should see that in the paper tomorrow. So it will be there.
Okay, thank you. And so we will easily satisfy that 2-week notice requirement.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Kevin, please.
Well, I would just like to note that it is good to be back. Other than that, I have nothing to add at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Donnelly?
Yes, I had a question for Kevin. He mentioned that he would be getting to the legal review for 2615. Did you have an estimate of when that might happen?
Yes, my estimate of when that will happen is probably late in the evening tomorrow. So I want to get that done before I stop work tomorrow. I don't know when that will be. It's quite possible that it's after 5 o'clock, but I'd prefer to get it done before the holiday. So that's my goal at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmgren, please.
I just had a question. I don't know if this is to Michelle. I noticed we didn't have a presentation from one of the counselors today, or one of the county counselors, and so wasn't sure if they're still, what the tracking was on the having them come and give their thoughts and feedback.
Yes. So Chair Marshall will be here next week to provide her second commentary. And the last one will be Counselor Belcott will be here on the 1st.
We're not planning to have a speaker on July 8th. Okay. We are moving right along. Commissioner Klein.
One other thing to share from the meeting today is that Councilor Little said he would not be coming to our meeting to address us.
Commissioner Adegwami.
Thank you, Chair. Just vis-a-vis the budget that we looked at earlier or shown earlier, as well as the comments about the invoice from the Scrivener services. Just wanted to make sure that we were going to get to sort of see that progress billing as a commission so we could understand the impact.
As soon as the invoices come in, I will post them to the budget. I'm happy then to send it out so everybody can see it as soon as it's been completed. I'm happy to just attach that to the information that I sent you guys via email with your meeting materials, if that's okay.
That would be good. Yeah, we want the full commission to be able to see that information.
Absolutely.
Okay. We will now move on to old business, which will be a resumption of the presentation on proposed amendment 2614, performance audits by Commissioner Silliman. Commissioners, you may recall that we voted to defer this 1 week to allow for some revisions that were proposed by the body. Rather than the full 30 minutes, we'll allocate no more than 15, which I think should be more than enough. Commissioner Silliman, are you ready to go over this? And I think the intent is to highlight the changes rather than to go over the full presentation again.
Exactly so.
Okay.
Thank you,
Go
Chair.
ahead and begin.
And Peter Silliman presenting minor changes or updates to the proposed Charter Amendment 2614, legislative branch performance audits. If you want to go ahead and skip to maybe the 4th page, it says the proposed amendments, section 2.7, you'll see that I changed the format to an ABC instead of a paragraph. I thought it was easier to break out the different subjects that way. And also you can see in red on this page that I removed the word periodic. And on the next page in section 2.8, modification was made in under point B, performance auditing not performed by the county was added to the language there. So this PowerPoint shows the changes in red to specify for you. The resolution document shows the final language in black and white, which is at the end of the presentation in the resolution packet. So periodic was removed because it conflicted with the statement that these audits would be as needed. The paragraphing was added to provide the clarity of district subject matters. I reviewed the language may conduct or cause to be conducted, and I believe it indicates the council's ability to use someone under their authority in the county or to contract with an outside resource. So that's why I didn't change that language. Again, not performed by the county was added to 2.8 to clarify that if the audit is to be performed by outside resources, they must be qualified. I believe that county employees are already subject to reporting standards, whether that's a policy analyst in the board's office, or if it's the auditor's department, they already have existing guidelines, so we didn't have to specify that. I believe these refinements provide the additional clarity on the ability to the county council to conduct audits if it finds it necessary to perform its legislative and policymaking role. Just to specify, this amendment grants authority to audit to the council. It directs the council to establish the process details through an ordinance and specifies that any outside contractors that it used must be properly qualified. I also reviewed the subject and wanted to clarify the authority to conduct an audit is a council power, not a counselor power. So it's not granted to an individual. So this would require 3 out of 5 counselors to cause an audit to be conducted at whatever scale they chose. So one of the issues that was brought up was abuse of that authority or potential abuse, serial auditing or other comments. So I wanted to make sure that was addressed. And also wanted to clarify that the protection of sensitive or privileged information is still required under state law. So there was concern about protection of private information. So those are the changes that I reviewed. I do want to thank the council for granting this special privilege to make those minor edits and address the concerns that were brought up in the last meeting and not just have to kill the amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I hope that satisfies your concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner Silliman. Commissioner Alagami, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Silliman for listening to the feedback of this commission and state that I'm inclined to support the amendment as revised.
Thank you. Commissioner Landisberg, please.
Still confused. about when does the county auditor do audits and when would council choose to use this process?
This process authorizes them to direct either one. So they could direct a staff member, say a policy analyst, to conduct an audit. It all kind of depends on scale. Or they can agree with the auditor to conduct an audit. If they don't feel like that is an appropriate venue, then they can pursue an outside counselor. But it kind of depends on scale, availability, and who the council trusts to do the audit. So there are some variables here, but again, it requires 3 council members to decide that an audit needs to be conducted and what the best way to conduct that is.
Commissioners, are there any other questions or comments? Commissioner Klein?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Silliman, I think that you did a good job on inserting the edits, making the adjustments based on your peers' input. I think this makes it an even better amendment. I was prepared to vote yes last week. I am absolutely going to vote yes, and I hope that the rest of our commission votes with me.
Thank you.
Commissioner LeBrandt has his hand raised.
Commissioner LeBrandt, please.
Yeah, I'll echo the previous comments and say that I think in particular clarifying that the authority is with the council as a whole and not with individual councilors is substantive and important. And I appreciate the extra time and effort that went into making those adjustments. So thank you. And I will plan to support this as well.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak who hasn't yet? Secretary Garber, please.
Well, I'd just like to thank Commissioner Silliman for addressing my concern regarding sensitive information. I liked this amendment, but I was concerned, and now I like it even more, and you have my vote.
Thank you. If I could extend some thanks to Michelle, who quickly got up the video the next day so I could go back and review in detail and write down your concerns as well. That helped a lot.
Commissioner Landesberg.
Okay, so as part of the drafting committee, I had an off-the-record discussion with Councilor Silliman, and that is not to the substance of what he wrote as far as these new resolutions to be included, but one of his whereas comments is not correct. And so he had my okay in the drafting committee to remove it, but I just wanted to be clear when we were voting on it that one of the whereases that refers to districts is just not relevant and not going to be included.
Well, okay, since that topic has been raised, I think we should, for the benefit of the body, I think we need to understand what we're talking about.
So what she's referring to is the 4th whereas I copied probably from the original resolution packet that we had, but there was an updated one that came out with a standard set of whereases that we are using in the drafting committee. So people that want to take this time and specify out those whereases, we're respecting that as a drafting committee, and most people are writing the resolution at the top, and we're absolutely respecting that. But this was just an error where I copied from a older template instead of the newest version. So she checked with me and I said, please do update it to the most current template.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for their clarification.
Hope that helps.
I think that's well within the scope of the drafting committee. It's not a policy evolution, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, are there any other comments or questions? I'll offer one of my own. I thought that the discussion around this proposal was great. I think that the work of the commission was exemplary. Commissioner Silliman, very responsive to the legal review, responsive to the comments that came in. The body was diligent in its responsibilities to scrutinize the amendment, even down to specific words, offering feedback. And then also credit goes to Katie, who's not here today, who very quickly did another review of the amendment, which I think actually ended up being a 3rd review because there was a change before. So all around, very good work by all involved. So thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, Is there a motion to advance Amendment 2614 to the drafting committee?
So moved, Benton.
Second, Klein.
So moved and seconded to advance Amendment 2614 to the drafting committee. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ottaguame,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Aye.
Chair Erickson,
Aye.
Secretary Garber,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren,
No.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Haas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Yes.
So we have one absent, one nay, and remaining aye. It passes.
Motion carries and Amendment 2614 is advanced to the drafting committee. Thank you, commissioners. We will continue on with our old business. We will take up a discussion regarding statements against. Commissioners, you may recall that last week we made some decisions around how this body will handle the statements in favor of amendments that are advanced to the ballot and what will show up in the voters pamphlet. Today, we will finish that discussion around the against statements. I'll start by offering a little context. The executive committee has thought about this. We want to offer our feedback, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Unlike the statements for, where we agreed that up to 2 out of the 3 members of the committee would be members of the commission, which was appropriate because that's a majority of that committee. The majority of the commission will have voted to move something to the ballot. It was our position that that wouldn't feel appropriate on the statements against. If an amendment has moved to the ballot, it means the majority of the commission approved that. And that having 2 of the 3 members on the against committee, it wasn't an accurate representation of the position of the body as a whole. So our suggestion to the body, open for discussion, is that we consider having 1 member of the commission on the against statement, on the against committee. But that certainly is open for discussion. So with that, is there anyone who would like to offer comments? Commissioner Ottaguame.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think that we necessarily would want to limit the number of commissioners who could be on the against committee, although I do think we should adopt a similar framework as we did for the 4 committees, where there's an importance in holding spots for members of the public who might want to be on that committee and have their names listed as being part of that committee. As far as the wider accessory committee, right, that wouldn't be actually listed on the ballot, I don't think anything would prevent a commissioner in their individual capacity from choosing to be a part of that. But it might be helpful to at least try and indicate that there should be a spot available if a commissioner did want to be on the against committee for a particular amendment.
Thank you. So in interpreting what I think I heard, would it be fair to say that we'll hold 1 spot, first right of refusal to a member of the commission? The other 2 spots could be opened up to the public. If there aren't 2 members of the public, then those other spots could potentially be filled by members of the commission.
Exactly, yes. So very much in parity with how we decided on the 4th.
Okay. Commissioner Chrisley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in to agree with Commissioner Ottaguame. I think that if we reserve 1 spot as an option, where applicable, I think there are some amendments that have widespread agreement, and maybe there's not an against on this commission for that. So I think we can't necessarily say we require to have a commissioner on it. There's got to be a position where they're not just members of the public are on there. But I would support giving first right of refusal to the first 2 rider spots, 2 members of this commission, and then fill in what's left with public from there. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you. So to try to make sure I've understood what you said. Your comments are similar to Commissioner Adegwame, except that you're suggesting that first right of refusal be held open for 2 spots rather than the one that Commissioner Adegwame is suggesting. Okay. Okay, we'll go to Commissioner Landesberg, then Commissioner LeBrant, then Commissioner Klein.
I agree with Commissioner Chrisley about having the ability of 2 commissioners to be on the con, because while some amendments passed almost unanimously, there are others that just had a number of no votes. And I think it would be up to the 2 commissioners, if there are 2 on the con, to decide among themselves who should be chairing it. I think we all could work out among ourselves rather than having a vote. But that's my opinion.
Thank you. Commissioner LeBrant, please.
Yeah, I think it's good to have at least one commissioner on each group. Also want to throw out there some of these amendments that have been proposed carry a lot of popularity on the commission. So I would just ask and remind folks that if you sign up to write the no position on something that you're in favor of, that you still you're committing to write a robust and thorough and honest argument against it, even if that's not what where you're at personally.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBrant. Commissioner Klein, please.
I'm seeking clarification, Chair. We're talking about who's going to comprise it as a whole, or who's going to appear to be on the voters pamphlet as writing or being part of that con committee.
Thank you for the question. So it's both are implied, but explicitly we're talking about who are the 3 formal members of the committee whose names will show up in the voters pamphlet. And I think we're having, what we're discussing is will that include 1 or 2 members of the commission, depending on level of interest.
So then clarifying that, a follow-on comment would be, it would appear then, if it were just talking about ballot presence on the con statement, there could be more con commissioners on that committee, but then just selecting from the group who's going to be on that ballot.
Correct. Just like the statements in favor, there could very well be more than 3 people who want to participate, but only 3 will show up in the ballot or in the voters pamphlet, rather. Secretary Garber, please.
So Commissioner LeBrant mentioned that somebody who would be in favor could write a statement against, but the administrative guide clearly says it is for citizens known or citizens that are against it. So it would not be appropriate for somebody who voted in favor of it and was in favor of it to be on that opposition committee.
And our votes are recorded, so that's going to be documented. Commissioner Silman, please.
Having been on a couple of pro and con committees before, I think it's a mistake for us to dictate whose names they should put on there at all. I think that committee should decide what names appearing on there gives their statement credibility, because that is an endorsement by individuals to the statement, and it can carry weight with the public depending on who wrote those statements. So I personally don't think it's our place to limit the committees that are writing those pro or con statements as to which names appear.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Holmgren, please.
Thank you. I was going to ask that question. Thank you, Commissioner Garber, for the clarification, because I thought we had that discussion that you had to be legitimately opposed, not providing a devil's advocate argument. I think I agree with Commissioner Suleiman there. I think it should be largely left up to the con committee to determine who shows up on the ballot. I think when we have a conversation about which members of this commission want to participate in the writing of the con statements, that should be, I guess, only limited to those who voted no on any given proposal. But that should be the only limitation.
Thank you. So try this, better understand what your comment is. Are you suggesting then that the commission would not hold open a spot for first right of refusal, and that if there's a member of the body that wants to participate, they would express that interest just like any other member of the public?
I guess I was thinking they would help form the whatever body that is going to end up writing the statement, but that body would determine whose names actually appear on the voter's pamphlet.
Commissioner Laquame, and then we'll come back to Commissioner Garber.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, as a follow-up to Commissioner Silliman's comment, if then would we want to go back and revise the motion that passed through unanimous consent in our last meeting, which explicitly stated the members of the 4 committee being from this commission in those 2 positions. So is that something that Commissioner Silliman would indicate that we should choose to revise then, if we shouldn't be asking the con committee or directing the con committee as to who would be on the ballot? Should we not be doing that for the 4 committee either?
We're certainly able to do that. I mean, we can go back and revisit prior decisions if we choose to. Right now we'll dispose of this discussion, and we can consider whether or not we want to come back to that.
Can I answer the question since it was directed at me?
Commissioner Silliman.
Yes, I would support us revisiting that issue. I don't support us as a body dictating to the committees. I think they should be independent myself. Thank you.
Secretary Garber, please.
Another clarification in the administrative guide, it clearly says that the committee gets to decide whose names appear on it. So I don't know if we need to revisit it, because that clearly tells us that once this committee is formed, and if there's 5 or 6 people, this committee gets to decide the names that'll appear in the voters guide.
Secretary Garber, just to clarify then, so are you suggesting that no revision would be required to our prior decision to address what Commissioner Silliman is suggesting?
Right, because we would have the 2 commissioners on that group, but if they have somebody else that has been part of that group and joined in, that committee can decide who those 3 people are, and it is not up to us to decide that at all. And in fact, once we give the names to the auditor's office, it is out of our hands totally. We don't provide them information, deadlines. It's all done by the elections to keep that piece separate. So the committees will never be talked to by this commission. So.
I'm reading our minutes. It does say that members of the commission would be on the committee. So the members of the committee are the names that show up. Well, maybe you could clarify it.
Well, they would be on the committee, but they might not necessarily, that the committee has the ability to determine whose 3 names are on it. We've already determined that 2 commissioners would be on it. But if you have 5 other people that joined you and you decide that maybe only 1 commissioner's name is listed and 2 citizens, that is within the ability of that committee.
Commissioner Silliman.
Yeah, so I didn't really want to turn it into a strictly legal issue, but I do question whether this group does have the authority to dictate any terms and conditions to a committee that's formed under a different authorization under law and formed by appealing to the auditor and saying, yes, I will be part of the pro or con committee. Do we have the authority to dictate to them the conditions of their roles on a committee?
I'll ask Commissioner Garber. She wants to comment, and then Kevin, if you have any input, we'd welcome that as well.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do the news release. We are the jurisdiction. So when we do the news release, we're going to get the names of the citizens who want to participate. Those names that want to participate with certain different amendments will be provided to the 2 commissioners for the to the commission, and you will be part of reaching out to them. The auditor, only if we don't find anybody will they be responsible for finding someone. That's only if we don't. So if we do, we give them all the names, and then they give them the deadlines, and the committees work amongst themselves.
Kevin, is there any input that you'd like to offer?
No, I don't really have anything to add at this time. And if further input from a legal standpoint is desired on this question, then I would need some additional time to look into that. So advise me at some future point if you need me to do that. Otherwise, I'll just say I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sillin, you have another comment?
I was just going to suggest that we could kind of avoid any conflict at all if we just simply say that these are guidelines or encouragements instead of saying these are hard and fast rules. How are we going to enforce it if somebody says, no, we're going to put 3 committee names on one of the pro statements? How would we handle that? Are we authorized to discipline a commission member because they did that? So I would suggest that we just simply say, let each committee encourage public participation in the committee as much as possible and leave it as a group encouragement in that direction. And let's see how it goes rather than trying to micromanage it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Vice Chair Haas, please.
I would just say if there's already procedures and rules that are established for this in whatever the guide was that Commissioner Garber was talking about, obviously they've already been tested at some point. We should probably just follow those instead of trying to reenact and create our own.
Commissioner Holmgren.
So I'm going to ask this as kind of a clarifying question on where it feels like this conversation is going, which seems to be a suggestion that we're just going to defer to the existing guidelines. But it does seem like the question we started with was, how do these committees get started in the first place? And our goal was to make sure that someone on the commission at least had the opportunity to essentially be the chair of these committees. And then other members could join them, or we could, say all the members who want to be a part of it, they will go off on their own and elect their own chair and encourage public participation however they see fit. But I feel like we're getting a little off in this conversation about like who shows up with their name on the ballot, instead of a question about how do we form these committees in the first place.
I think that's well taken. Thank you, Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, I'm not sure if now is the time, but if you would entertain a motion, I would like to move to permit members of this commission to take part in against committees and to have them encourage public participation if it's available.
I think we're getting close to a motion. Commissioner Garber had, I think, one comment or maybe also a motion, but Commissioner Garber, do you have a comment that you'd like to share?
I would just like to make a friendly amendment to your motion that we follow the guidelines that have been established by the auditor's office, which really does lay down after we allow ourselves, to be on the commission, on the committees. It has some really good guidelines. And so as long as we're following them, I think it's fine, but just to follow the guidelines also.
I consider that an extremely friendly amendment and it is accepted.
So for context, Commissioner Adequame, do you have your motion in mind? Are you looking to parallel it after the 4 committee motions?
I do have a motion in mind. Yes, Chair. So the motion is that I move that we permit any member of this commission to take part in an against committee, given that they follow the guidelines currently as established by the auditor's office for doing so and do their part to encourage public participation should it be available.
Second, Holmgren.
Okay. Commissioner Garber, is there any input that you have on the alignment between Commissioner Adequame's motion and your understanding or suggestion about compliance with the requirements?
No, I think that would be fine.
Commissioner Algarve, would you mind repeating that one more time?
I move that we allow participation by members of this commission in the against committee, given that they follow the guidelines as established by the auditor's office and do their part to encourage public participation should it be available.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that members of the commission be allowed to participate in the statements against, provided that they follow the guidelines from the auditor's office and that public participation is encouraged. I believe there was a second, or there's a second. Commissioner Holmgren, any further discussion? Okay, are there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion is approved. Okay, commissioners, I'd like to suggest that we take a brief break. We'll come back at 6:07 p.m.
We're live.
Commissioners, welcome back. We'll move on to our new business, beginning with presentation on Amendment Proposal 2637, County Council Investigative Authority, with Commissioner Silliman as the sponsor. Commissioner Silliman, are you ready to begin?
Yes, sir.
Please do so.
Last presentation you get to hear from me. Peter Silliman presenting proposed charter amendment 2637, Legislative Branch Investigative Authority. This proposed amendment would change Article 2 of the county charter. It would allow complaints about county operations to be directed to the county council. It would also make it clear that the county council or legislative branch may investigate the affairs of the county and the conduct of any department, office, or agency of the county. This proposed amendment directs that complaints about county operations should be directed to the legislative branch. I believe this is an essential feedback mechanism for policymakers to determine if the administrative branch is carrying out their policies as directed, or if policies have unintended consequences that need to be changed. There is also no provision currently in the charter granting investigative authority to the legislative branch. The charter currently says the council may request information from the county manager. For a council to function as an independent legislative and policymaking body, it must be able to investigate county operations. So Article 1, Section 5 requires separation of powers and cooperation of branches. It says we are to have 2 branches of government. Each branch is to dutifully fulfill its responsibilities and shall not extend its authority into the other branch as defined in this charter. This amendment is sticking with the spirit of that requirement. Section 2.6 says council members shall not interfere in the administration of the executive branch. Council members are supposed to be the policymakers of the county. The administrative branch is to implement that policy. How can the council make correct policy if they are not allowed the feedback of complaints or the ability to investigate how policy is currently being implemented? Section 2.6b, nothing contained herein shall prohibit, this is the way the charter currently reads, nothing prohibits a council member from requesting information or submitting a request to the county manager or requesting information or advice pertinent to the legislative deliberations. The control of information available to the county council to make policy decisions is currently in the hands of the administrative branch. This creates a policy-making imbalance. Other county charters, Snohomish County, the county council may, in conjunction with the legislative process, make investigations into the affairs of the county and the conduct of any county department. Pierce County Charter has similar language. The county council may, in conjunction with the legislative process, make investigations into the affairs of the county and the conduct of any county department, office, or agency. And for this purpose, it goes on. This resolution would amend the county home rule charter to authorize the county council to receive citizen complaints, that they should be informed of all complaints filed in other county departments and grant the council the authority to investigate those complaints or the conduct and operation of any county department, office, or agency, and to inform and assist them in their legislative and policy-making process. So the actual charter language says the county council may, in conjunction with the legislative process, make investigations into the affairs of the county and the conduct of any county department, office, or agency. The county council as a whole or by committee may conduct public hearings on matters of public concern. And the new proposed section 2.10 specifies further. The county council shall receive and may investigate complaints concerning the operations of county government and may respond to inquiries from the public concerning the operation of county government. A legislative branch employee may be appointed by the council to investigate these complaints. In addition to their other duties, the appointee shall monitor and report to the county council on the nature and disposition of whistleblower, ethics, human rights, and any other complaint filed pursuant to other county ordinances or procedures. So what is the problem we're trying to solve here? The charter requires separation of the legislative and executive branches of government. But checks and balances cannot really occur if there's no ability for the legislative branch to independently investigate the administrative branch. This is also why they should receive the complaints about the executive branch. This amendment provides clarity and the ability of the council to investigate the administrative branch. This is an important evaluation tool for implementing policy. This also produces accountability. I want to stress that this investigative power is optional. This allows any citizen to make a complaint directly to the county council. There is no mandate that the county or council or any counselor take any action. The council will decide the appropriate level of investigation required for any complaint. It's discretionary authority. The cost of any investigation and response is therefore up to the council. This is the authority to pursue information based on a citizen complaint. Do people want this? Citizens' complaints about county operations are an important feedback mechanism concerning the appropriate balance and impact of county policies and ordinances approved by the county council. Yes, people want and deserve an appropriate level of government regulation. Whatcom County proposed a similar charter amendment in 2025, but theirs barely failed, but I believe it was a failure because they proposed an independent ombuds office, which had additional staffing costs and independence. This proposal simply gives the county council the ability to do what people already think they do. People want their representatives to hear and fully investigate their concerns and complaints. I hope that's enough to engender your support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Selman. We'll begin with Secretary Garber, please.
Commissioner Silliman, I actually have two things. The first one, I noticed that you have that wrong whereas in this one also about district boundaries. So I'm hoping that the drafting committee can also remove that one from this one. And my other question is, you referred to a section, excuse me, I had to look back to this. You talked about the legislative branch, relationship with other branches and the separation. And I'm just wondering, isn't an investigation extending its authority into the other branches? If the council could do an investigation on an executive, isn't that extending their authority? And isn't that kind of, I just don't see how this is in the spirit of that separation like you talked about.
The charter specifies that the county council no longer has the ability to direct employees' performance in their job duties. So that was the big change from before, because our county commissioners had both executive and administrative power, so they could tell employees what to do. So this says they still don't have the ability to direct employees, but they do have the ability, like any legislative branch does, to gather and receive information. So in a sense, it's similar to the audit that process that we just approved, but this is a different feedback mechanism. It's just simply, hey, the citizen complained about a county process and procedure, and the council gets to respond and investigate that, which in a lot of ways they already do. They assign a staff member, or Michelle makes a couple of calls and says, what's really up to this with this? And they report to the council maybe and say, this is what the situation was and this is how we resolved it. So this is just about providing information and making sure the council has the right to that information.
Thank you.
Go to Commissioner Landisberg, then we'll go to our two commissioners online, then we'll come back into the room.
So I'm still confused. I guess that's my middle name. When you talk about the legislative branch, is that different than the county council? Because I didn't think there were any other people underneath it. So if you're saying legislative branch, why couldn't you just use the words county council?
It was a way of expressing that it might not be a county councilor that gathers the information, but right now we have a board of county councilors budget, and we have people that are assigned under the county manager to serve the county council. So even though they aren't directed in their employment by the county council, that was a separate issue that we talked about before, and maybe we'll talk about it next year, but they're still in the board of county councilor's office. So it was just a way of expressing that. And maybe it just carried over because it was language in other charters that I copied. So it wasn't an intentional way of saying anything different, but it's the county council or somebody under their direction could make investigations and report to the county council.
Commissioner Jay, please.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings from San Antonio. I just wanted to respond quickly to Secretary Garber's question in regards to separation of powers, to further articulate, which I believe I did last week, about separation of powers being the separation of powers in definition, segmenting them are three different branches into their own spheres, but a check is a intentional design in a constitution to allow for one branch of government to intervene in another branch of government, such as a veto by the president or by the ability for Congress to investigate. So I do believe that this document does lack actual checks in it in terms of its design, which I do believe is important, which for future considerations of this charter, for its longevity, but also if other charter review commissions, or if we decide to in our next year to pursue an elected executive, I think it's really important that we have these frameworks and institutions already up to par before that would ever happen. And so I think in terms of future-proofing this charter, I think we should support this to give it what would be a basic power of a legislative branch, which is to conduct investigations. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time to speak.
Thank you. Commissioner LeBrant, please.
So a couple of thoughts. The first one is the scenario that you mentioned where the council is already able to investigate. They pick up the phone, they say, "Hey, Michelle, what's going on here?" If that's already happening, I'm still not clear on what we're actually trying to solve then. So we've already got the mechanism, we've already got the ability there. And then additionally, not to put too fine a point on it, but a huge part of why this charter was adopted in the first place was due to the county commission bullying individual employees under the color of investigating administrative activities. The structure that we adopted at that time as part of this charter is the one that we currently have, where the administrative branch is accountable to the county manager. The county manager is directly accountable to the county council, and the county council is accountable to the voters. And that was the structure that was put into the charter very clearly, and the one that we're still operating under. So, I mean, to try and roll that back to, frankly, the system that got people so upset that we adopted this charter in the first place, feels like a huge step backward.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Selman, just a minute, please. Commissioner LeBrand, did you pose a question?
I guess, yeah, so the question was on clarity around what's being solved, and then the rest is commentary.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Commissioner Selman, if you'd like to proceed to answer that question.
Okay. So I do want to acknowledge that, yes, there is a way that the county charter was created. And one of the stipulations that's in there repeatedly is that the county may request information. That doesn't give them a right to the information. And depending on the level of cooperation or the information that the county manager wants them to have, they will get the information in a filtered sense. This gives them the right to pursue information, which is a little bit different. So the charter was created to separate the branches, and it specifically says they will not direct employees in the performance of their duties. This does not change that. This is only requesting information about what happened to properly evaluate the impact of how our county ordinances or policies being implemented. And I'll also reiterate, like the previous amendment, this is a council power. It's not an individual council member power. So there is built-in accountability there. It's not something that one counselor can embrace and go off and abuse, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chrisley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Stillman. What I keep coming back to at this point is, what problem are we actually solving with this? And the reason I say that is because if what we're asking is if the concern is the effectiveness or the efficiency of a program, we just voted on and passed an amendment for that, which was 2614. So that covers that. If the concern is ethics or misconduct, we have an ethics department, and we're going to have potentially an ethics amendment that also wrangles that. So that's kind of out of the way. If the concern is illegal conduct, then that's a law enforcement or prosecuting office's issue. And so it should be turned over to them. And so after removing the subpoena power and the compelled testimony and those other items, I'm struggling to see what this amendment adds that's both necessary or appropriate for the charter at this point. And I also think we need to be cautious about creating an investigative role for the council. I think that blurs the line of what they're elected to do, which is to legislate, set policy, and adopt budgets and provide oversight. And so for those reasons, I just don't believe this amendment meaningfully improves the council's ability to do their job or perform their duties. And so with that said, I think it's been watered to the point to where it's just not needed now. Maybe in the future we can come back and review it. But as it sits now, there's a mechanism in place. People can directly get a hold of each counselor. If I have a problem, I can directly email the county counselor what my issue is, and they can take that up on consent agenda or not. So I just don't feel like it's needed at this time. And so I would encourage everyone to give this a no vote for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Alagome, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Silliman, for the presentation. I'd like to echo and underscore some of Commissioner LeBrand and Commissioner Chrisley's comments, in hearing the responses to some of their questions as well. If the information pathway already exists and the concern is that the information could be in some way withheld or not given fully or some other mechanism, I think the right amendment would be to write it in a way that requires that information to be presented within a certain timeline, things like that are really getting to the point of let's get the information. I think establishing an entire investigative power goes a little bit far when it was just maybe a step that needed to be taken there. But it sounds like this is already something that doesn't exist as a current problem and is something that is returning to a bigger problem. And so between the two, that and then also considering that we just, as Commissioner Chrisley said, voted to send to drafting committee an amendment which would allow for performance audits which get to the nature of programs run by the county. I just don't think this is there yet. I get the spirit of it. I'm in line with the spirit of it, the idea that county council should be able to understand the impact citizens experience from the county and seek to do what they can to get to the root of those issues and to understand them. I don't know that investigatory powers are the way that we get there. And so I just don't think this is fully baked. I don't think it's ready for the charter or to advance. And I'm going to vote no on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmgren, please.
Thank you. So I also am opposed to this proposal. I am opposed to it because I feel like it is going at the problem of a weak county council the wrong way. I think you've clearly articulated in many of your proposals, Commissioner Suleiman, that you feel that the council needs to be empowered to be stronger than the current one. And I agree with that. But I think the solution is to go directly at the separation of powers language that is in the charter that is overly strong. I think when we look at the language in other charter counties, that it asks for cooperation, it asks for coordination, and it grants actual powers and authorities to the council through that type of language rather than piecemeal adding different authorities and requirements. And so I would think it would be more beneficial to have one amendment that strengthens the charter, the council, that clearly articulates why we think the council needs to be strengthened, which is the fact that in the current format, the council is significantly less powered than the executive branch and the executive elected offices. And this, instead, the way that you've gone about it is to do this 1, 2, 3, 4 amendments rather than one piece that I think says exactly what it is. I also don't particularly think that I do think as a small piece, the investigating of public complaints may be, if it passed, limiting the ability of the executive branch to address complaints as well, because it seems like it would take that authority and that responsibility and hand it off to the council, when in many of these offices that provide services, if a citizen has a complaint, the best place to go is directly to that office. But if that power is explicitly granted to the commission, will those offices then just forward it along and not actually respond? I don't know. But that's a much smaller issue. My bigger issue is that I think we should be addressing the specific language that prevents the council from being a stronger and more complete member of the actual body of the county government. And I don't think that this does that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein.
I think we do a disservice to the county, to the citizens of this county, if we allow for a specific branch of our government to self-investigate without any input from another branch. If the executive branch or the administration, pick a branch or pick a part of the county government, is not have any oversight by we the people, by our elected counselors, how are we serving the people? If I have a problem, a complaint, and I'm going to articulate it to the county, one, hopefully I get a response. Two, maybe I don't get a quick response or nothing resolves from it. And if I take it to my counselor, if they do not have the authority to act on my behalf to make inquiry, how does that serve the people? How does that serve the people of this county? I think that this is an appropriate amendment, and I think that we should give it. I think that the tendency to be afraid of going back to the way it was before when there was 3 commissioners, I think that that is a little too much I think that we're better than that. I think that we have a very good form of government. The charter is doing a good job. We are working as a body to improve it. This is a good improvement, and I encourage you to really consider that. Don't be afraid of what this does. I think be encouraged by what it can do. It gives authority to our elected people to help the citizens of this county. So please join me in voting yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any other comments or questions? I have one of my own. I like this amendment. I like what it's trying to achieve. I like your intent to strengthen the county council. I find myself looking at the wording in section C of 2.10, not unlike the discussion we had last week over certain wordings. So if we could go to that, I'd like to just go over a couple of things that have caught my attention. And I'll jump to the punchline. I would like to find a way to vote yes for this, but to do that, I think this needs to be deferred to next week to allow for a couple tweaks. And let me explain why that is. Section C is, the words matter. So this appointee shall do all these things. I would like to perhaps see it say may, because once that appointee is designated, then that appointee has a responsibility to do these things. I'm not sure how these responsibilities, for example, with respect to ethics, overlaps with our ethics commission. When this appointee is tasked with monitoring the ethics complaints, does that mean they're sitting in on the ethics commission meetings and then they're reporting back? That relationship is unclear to me. So in its current format, I'm not ready to vote yes. I would like to vote yes, but I think section C either needs to be eliminated or retooled, not unlike what we did last week for 2614. So I'm going to pose it as a question so you have a chance to respond, because I'd love to hear your input. Can you, Commissioner Sidlin, elaborate a little bit around section C and how this appointee is going to be monitoring human rights and whistleblower and ethics in relationship to the Ethics Commission? And it says, and any other complaints. The word any, I mean, that's any is any. So it's hard for me to understand what this actually looks like and what it translates into in the day-to-day implementation of this wording.
So you'd like me to share the intent of that, or how I visualize it's being implemented, or?
Yes. I guess also the question is, are you open to revisiting a revision?
I'm always open.
Okay. Well, I think section C either gets retooled or struck.
Okay.
But
and
I'd love to hear
just to share the intent first, and maybe it'll add some clarity, but the intent was whoever is responding and informing the council on complaints that come directly to the council's office would also summarize for the council complaints that come to other offices and get resolved there. So it might be the permitting department. Hey, what complaints came to the permitting department? How did they resolve that? And what was the process? Was the customer happy, et cetera? Just so that they're aware of what complaints happen and that they got resolved satisfactorily. So it wasn't an effort to interfere in those processes like the ethics process, but only that the county council would be aware of these issues and what their resolution was other places in the county. Again, just as a potential feedback mechanism for them, so they can say, well, if this happened, is there a rule or issue with the statute or the policy that we should be looking at and correcting? So I don't believe feedback from citizens should have to result in one-off resolutions for citizens and have the appearance of granting a special privilege or exemption, when maybe what it should trigger is, do we need to resolve the underlying statute and add clarity to it? So
I agree with all that.
If that language in C can be resolved a little bit and just by simply turning the shall into may, or at the council's discretion, inform them or something to convey the better meaning, I would be happy to resolve that in the same manner we did the last one.
Okay, thank you for being open to that.
If the council chooses to extend that privilege to me, thank you.
So can you comment again, like for example, the listing of ethics? What's the relationship between this appointee and their interaction with the council and their monitoring of complaints around ethics, which would seem to include the work of the Ethics Commission? Is this person being debriefed by the Ethics Commission and then they turn around and report back to the council?
Sorry, I didn't visualize it that way, just that they would inform the council by giving them a summary of issues that came before the Ethics Commission, what the resolution was, who was involved, just to inform them of what the core issues are in the complaints, not to interfere with any of these other processes, just that they be, again, it's just that they be informed.
And I think the intent makes sense, and I agree with that intent. The wording is not quite aligned with what I'm hearing you describe.
Okay.
Commissioner Landisberg.
As chair of the drafting committee, I would not want to see this come next week. We are going to be struggling if the ethics thing passes to get everything done and back from the Scrivener in time. And so I don't think there's time to add to it. She's not been as responsive as we thought. She's still got two that she already had and one that we're going to finish up on Friday.
Well, that's a fair comment. I think that if Commissioner Silliman and this body chooses to take a similar course of action on this amendment as we did last week for 2614, I think that administrative matter perhaps could be addressed. Understanding if your comment to mean that the issue is perhaps the responsiveness of the Scrivener, not necessarily the time commitment of the drafting committee.
But we also have legal, they have a holiday. So it really cuts the time. That's all.
Well, we have 3 weeks before we take our final vote. Commissioner Donnelly.
Yes, I strongly support the deferral because look how much good was done by our previous deferral on 2614. I think a much better amendment came out of it, and I think some rather substantive conversations have gone on with regard to it, and I think it will benefit similarly in this case.
Thank you. Vice Chair Haas.
I don't know if I'm completely on board with this yet, so I would like to echo part of Commissioner Erickson's comments and see if it goes back. But I also think we can't make that decision on what the workload might do in the future. I find part of this is, in my mind, duplicating work that we've already put forward. But I'm willing to take another thought at it if it gets reworked.
Okay. We're out of time. Commissioner Klein, if you have one last comment, and then we will we'll wrap this up with a motion.
I was going to offer a motion.
Okay. Is your motion something other than sending this to the drafting committee?
My motion was to allow Commissioner Silliman to rework this for next week.
Okay. So that's not sending it to the drafting committee. So if you'd like to proceed with your motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we provide the allowance for Amendment 2637 to be reworked in the recommended verbiage and bring this back for a light representation for vote next week.
Is there a second?
Second, Donnelly.
Commissioner Donnelly. Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Adequame.
Thank you, Chair. I just do have a small concern based on Commissioner Landisberg's comments about the workload on drafting if it doesn't come back in time to be able to be done with the rest of them. And if we have issues with the Scrivener, but it's just a small concern. I don't know that it's necessarily material to whether this gets delayed 1 week or not.
It is a fair comment. Commissioner Commissioner Landisberg, thank you for raising that. I didn't mean to be dismissive of your comment. Would it be possible for the drafting committee to do some work without that becoming inefficient? And then whatever changes might be approved next week, the scope of additional work is then narrowed. So for example, if the changes are limited to item C of section 2.10, could the drafting committee be looking at the balance of the amendment? And then all that's left to do after next week is hone in on these prospective additional changes? So it looks like Commissioner Landsberg is deferring her answer to Secretary Garber.
I just don't think that we should be looking at part of a resolution that has not been passed. The drafting committee gets resolutions that have come out of drafting committee and voted on. I don't think that we should be doing that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Selwyn.
I was just going to offer that any changes that I make and refine have to be submitted by Monday for the presentation Wednesday. They don't change from Monday, so why couldn't I send it directly to the drafting committee on Monday along with the executive committee and Michelle for the presentation, since the material doesn't change? She could then possibly prepare it for that Friday's meeting instead of the following Friday, which has been our standard practice.
Are you talking about deferring this to?
No, I'm talking about just the drafting committee. If they want the resolution sooner to start work on it, instead of giving it to them on Thursday after the approval, I could give it to them Monday when I'm done making any edits, because I can't make any changes after that.
Well, that probably lets them put their eyes on a little sooner. I think Secretary Garber's point was well taken, that the drafting committee would defer any real work on it till it's been voted on by the body. But letting the drafting committee members see it at least maybe is a small incremental step forward. Commissioner Alagami.
Thank you, Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought during staff communications earlier, we heard a request for all materials to be turned in by Thursday this week, not Monday, given the holiday and the fact that Michelle will be out next week. Well, maybe I misunderstood that and it was just a request and not a requirement.
Yeah, you did hear that. Commissioner Garber, I'll let you comment on that.
So yes, you did hear that, but based on Commissioner Gasquet waiting for the legal review, we asked Michelle to provide more time to Commissioner Gasquet. Now, mind you, the minutes and the agenda, they must be done by Thursday by close of business to accommodate that. It was only for Commissioner Gasquet because she won't even get the second legal review until possibly late Thursday, which is after the deadline. So that was the only deviation from the Thursday deadline.
Right, but then so Commissioner Stillman's comments about getting his revision done by Monday would not be in line with that Thursday deadline.
I mean, it would be more work for somebody other than Michelle to do because Michelle will be gone that day. But I guess, you know, they might be able to do that for us, but that was not the original intention. It was just to allow Commissioner Gasquet more time because she won't get the legal review until after the deadline.
I think it does raise a similar question though. So if, just like on 2614, Katie did do a quick re-review. Kevin, if this were to be revised, and I don't know exactly what Commissioner Selman is contemplating, but one scenario would be perhaps section C is deleted. That would, from my vantage point, look like that might be an easier review. Whereas if it were retained but revised, that might be maybe a little bit more of a review. In either scenario, is the PA's office in the position to look at an updated version of this amendment? And if so, in what timeframe?
I'm really not able to provide any time estimate regarding that because as Ms. Jolma did the initial review on this matter, I would need to defer to her on that. I'd prefer to avoid situations where there's crossover to the maximum extent possible.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, we're still in the discussion portion on the motion on the floor, which has been seconded. Are there any more comments or questions? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to allow Commissioner Silliman to bring this back next week after addressing the comments in this discussion. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ottaguame,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Abstain.
Chair Erickson,
Aye.
Secretary Garber,
No.
Commissioner Chrisley,
No.
Commissioner Landisberg,
No.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Abstain.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Abstain.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
Aye.
Commissioner Silliman.
Yes.
With 7 ayes.
Okay, with
4
seven ayes, the motion does not carry, which brings us back to a vote on the amendment in its current format now. So is there a motion to advance 2637 to the drafting committee?
So moved, Klein.
Is there a second?
Second, Donnelly.
Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Ottaguame,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
No.
Chair Erickson,
No.
Secretary Garber,
No.
Commissioner Chrisley,
No.
Commissioner Landisberg,
No.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
No.
Commissioner Holmgren,
No.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Haas,
No.
Commissioner Silliman.
Yes.
5 ayes, motion fails.
Okay, 2637 does not advance to the drafting committee. Commissioners, our next item of new business is a discussion around our schedule after July 8th. This is intended to be a roundtable. First touch on this topic. We won't be taking a vote, but it's intended to gauge the sentiments of the body. I'll start by offering some general topics that the executive committee has discussed, and then we'll go around the room and allow people to express their opinions. Our first order of business is just to consciously decide that, in fact, our work has not concluded and that we will continue to meet in 2027. You may recall that the charter does say that we are elected for 2 years or until our work is completed. So we do need to make that conscious decision. Also, that what our break would look like. We're currently thinking that we would have, we may meet July 15th. The agenda for that date is to be determined. It's a placeholder. Then we would take a break. We would have meetings for a number of months. And then perhaps come back after Thanksgiving for 1, 2, or 3 meetings in early December to revise our bylaws, review the work plan, and get those kinds of documents reviewed, updated, and in place so that when we come back in January, that necessary 14-day waiting period is behind us and we can accept them and move forward. And then also we need to have a little discussion about what our responsibilities are during this recess, and Commissioner Holmgren will give us some feedback on that. Those are the general topics. There's other things that anyone who wants to bring up other topics can do so. But we'll start. Commissioner Donnelly, are you willing to begin? And we'll just kind of go around the room, maybe 30, 45 seconds on your thoughts on those topics.
I think the program that you spelled out is just fine. I plan to be working on one or more amendments and during that time offline and with other commissioners and taking part in the forums, et cetera. So I'm very comfortable with what you projected. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmgren, so you may have more to say. So could we come back to you? Would that be okay? I think you'll have a lot to say with respect to the outreach committee. Let's go to the folks who are not in the room so we don't forget them. Commissioner LeBrant, are you ready to go next, please?
Yeah. Given the volume of amendments that have been deferred and the opportunity potentially for folks to submit even more proposals, I wonder if we might consider not doing a recess in lieu of maybe a slightly lighter meeting schedule throughout that time, going to every 2 weeks or 2 hours instead of 3 or something like that. But I think there's already enough on the table to keep us plenty busy for the whole time.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
I agree with Commissioner LeBrant. As much as a recess in the summer would be desirable, I think we just have so much work to do still. And if we were to start everything really in gung-ho going next year, we would be in the same kind of rush position minus the having to create our bylaws and work plan, which would still obviously require some tweaking. I would imagine that probably the best time for a break, if we're going to do one longer than 2 weeks, would be in December after the first week or so. But I think, yeah, I would agree with Commissioner LeBrant that slowing our roll down a little bit, whether that's 2-hour meetings or meetings every other week, but I think we have a lot of work to still do.
Thank you. Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Chair. I think you laid out a good strategy. And I think of a recess after potentially the 15th. I don't know if we need to go all the way to November on that recess, but I think several month recess to let the amendments that are already in do what they're going to do, and commissioners are going to do what they're going to do with their amendments as far as, pooling for them out there into the community. And then maybe at the end of summer, do the bylaws, clean up some of the work product, take another recess, and then come back and begin the year and start on these amendments. I don't know as if the timeline changes a whole lot, but we will be able to get started earlier, because if we come back at the end of the year and do the bylaw cleanup, then we start the new year on the new work product, we'll be ready to go. And so we'll have more time on our timeline than we have now. We do have a lot of deferrals, but I don't know as if we will end up with as many amendments to whittle down as we had for this year already. And so I disagree with the two gentlemen online. I don't think we need to be back all through summer working on things that we've already worked on. So I disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Landisberg, please.
So I would like to see us go in July and finish the bylaws and the work processes that we need to do while it's still somewhat fresh in our brains before we take a break. I would support taking a break until Labor Day and then getting back to work, because I found these 3-hour meetings grueling. I kind of signed up for 2 hours, but 3 hours is grueling. I'd like to see us continue and stop at Thanksgiving and give people off between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because there's so many things going on in people's personal lives during that time, and come back the first week in January and have an established schedule so that it can be published, so we don't have to worry about everything.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Haas, please.
I support the rough draft that you threw out there. Maybe moving back towards the beginning of November as opposed to after Thanksgiving. But we've been here a lot of hours, and I think a break is not a bad idea at all. So I would be in favor of an extended break until November.
Well, I support taking a break. I think we could meet on the 15th, wrap up any loose ends before that break starts. And then we come back sometime in the fall for a few meetings to get our governing documents updated, have them ready to go once we hit the ground running in January. I'm not in favor of meeting even every 2 weeks continuously through the summer. Commissioner Garber, please.
Well, I think that we should go ahead. I really like what Commissioner Landesberg said. Let's finish our bylaws while it's fresh in our mind. We could probably do that and get it done in July. I think we should take August off. But, you know, we were elected to a 2-year term. There's a lot of new ideas out there. If we're even going to consider putting something on the 2028 ballot, we're going to be doing 2 years worth of work in that next time. And I'm really thinking that we shouldn't take off more than a month, but let's try to get it to like an hour meeting or a 2-hour meeting at the most. That's my thought.
Thank you. Commissioner Silliman.
I definitely think we deserve the summer off. We've put a lot of work into it. Everybody has. 3 hours every week is a lot of time. Plus, I know you work a lot more hours just doing stuff behind the scenes as well as everybody else. I kind of pictured take from July 15th till say middle of September. Maybe we meet once a month a few times. So September, October, November, and then resolve issues and come back in January.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein.
I support Commissioner Silliman's comments. I do like the idea of getting the bylaws, that administrative work done before we adjourn for a recess.
Commissioner Benton.
Yeah, I'm a favor of the long break as far as where it should go. Working on bylaws while things are fresh. I think we're probably going to make some changes to almost every step of the process. So while it's fresh would be good, as much of a bummer as it might be thinking we were going to have a break after the 15th, but it might be good to plug through the rest of July and then take that time off. But I also think setting up the work plan, knowing when dates are going to be next year so we can hit the ground running, because I believe we should take the holidays. It's going to be a busy time for folks. So
thank you. Commissioner Gaskin.
I'm in favor of taking August off, but I think any longer we're going to end up next year like stuck again, waiting in the process. We still, all the amendments that haven't had financial review, legal review, all of those still need to go through the process. And we still need to get them to forming a committee before they can go through that process. So I think taking time off until November isn't realistic. I think that'll make us just rush. But definitely August. Let's take the month of August off.
Commissioner Othergami, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of thoughts about it. I think, as many have mentioned, getting to our bylaws while they're still fresh in our minds and while this process is still fresh in the mind makes a lot of sense. I am generally in favor of continuing through July. I also think that there's, a framework for a retreat that some commissions use where it's an extended session, still open to the public, but just dedicated time to get together and really spend that extended format of work so that we can get a lot more completed in maybe a shorter time and get to a faster break or an earlier break. That might also be a good framework for using when we think about doing, like, if there's a refresher on OPMA next year or other items which are more at that administrative level or governance level of the commission versus being actual work product of the commission. It'd be interesting to think about, what does public outreach and education look like throughout, the rest of this year? I've heard from community members that, they didn't really get a chance to think about some of the proposals that we're bringing forward, right? Or they hadn't been consulted about them or heard about them prior to them coming to a town hall or seeing them in a meeting. And so something to allow the commission to go out and engage with the community and really understand what community feedback will inform the amendments that we work on in 2027. That, and then I don't know if there's a cadence, during the rest of 2026 that would make sense, such as doing a monthly meeting or something of that sort, just to get that deferred amendment work that I think one of my fellow commissioners mentioned at least started, because we do have a lot before us. We had a lot this year. We moved at quite a pace. We extended our meeting to try and even get further into the work that we had before us. And so I think taking too long of a break might be to our detriment. We might find ourselves having to extend our meetings again in the next year. So those are my thoughts. They weren't too brief, but thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I ask you to restate your proposed draft?
Well, it was just an opening comment to kind of spur discussion.
Okay.
And it's not binding, but the opening comment was we would for sure meet on the 15th. The agenda to be determined, take a break, come back later in the year, perhaps December, and then we would come back with our full meeting schedule in January. Lots of details to flesh out there, but that was the opening comment. It's not binding, but Commissioner Donnelly for one more comment, and then we'll come back to you, Commissioner Holmgren.
Yes, I would like to suggest an approach, and that would be that you've listened to all of the concerns and other ideas, and maybe the executive committee would come up with an actual proposed calendar that would reflect all these comments to bring to us the next time and see if we can agree on it.
Yes, thank you. That's an excellent idea. Commissioner Garber has been taking careful notes. So Commissioner Holmgren, if you could speak not only to your personal preferences, but also what our responsibilities will be with respect to public outreach.
Sure. I'm going to split those into two totally different comments. So I'm going to start with my personal view, like everybody else did around the table, and then I'll go to the public outreach discussion. So my personal view, I think, is pretty in line with many members of the commission. I think the proposed break is probably too long. I agree with the idea of a recess of some kind. I think the proposal of let's make sure it's all of August. Having less frequent meetings, I think, is a good idea during the months of September, October, and November. Trying to have as much time off in the holidays season in December as possible makes sense to me. So, it's like, I guess my ideal would be we probably meet July 15th. We meet the next week because we're going to talk about the bylaws and the work plan a little bit more. Then we are recessed until after Labor Day, and then we meet every other week up until Thanksgiving. Seems like a reasonable, every other week for 2 hours, not 3 hours. That makes sense to me, but I'm open to lots of other suggestions. So those are my thoughts. Public outreach. We have approved the budget for doing town halls in all 5 districts again in the fall. The idea would be that these town halls would be structured differently than the ones we just completed, because We're not going to be seeking public feedback on should these be on the ballot. Instead, it is an opportunity for people to learn more about what these proposals are actually going to do. So we would be trying to speak neutrally and authoritatively on what effect they would have. Again, these would not be campaigning opportunities because we would be using county resources. We need to be very clear that that is not what's going on. But we would have one of these in each district. The Public Outreach Committee, we talked about this at our Friday meeting, and we felt that the timeline that made the most sense was probably looking at middle of September through the middle of October. So this is when people are starting to pay more attention to local politics, the election that's coming up, but hoping to finish having the town halls prior to people getting their ballots in the mail so that people would not have already voted by the time that we have the town halls. So that was kind of the timeline we were thinking. One of the things that that means for you all is that, one, we're going to be trying to hammer out dates as soon as possible so that we can book the rooms that are available as far out as early as possible so that they're currently available or they are available. We don't have to scramble and move dates around because the rooms that we want to use are not available anymore. So that means we will be kind of on top of it a little sooner, but that also means that we as the Public Outreach Committee are going to be reaching out to each and every one of you kind of probably at the end of July, early August to start scheduling these. And that also means that the Public Outreach Committee, we talked about having less frequent meetings, but also continuing to have a scheduled meeting to make sure that we're on top of getting any flyers printed, getting advertisements posted, and scheduling these events.
Thank you. That's very good input. Commissioner, we'll go to Commissioner Landsberg, then to Commissioner Adegome.
So I'd like to suggest that the Public Outreach Committee also work with the League of Women Voters because they will be doing fall forums for all the candidates. And I don't think we want to hold our meeting, town hall meeting, at the same time they're going to be conducting a forum if our attitude is to educate. Now, I can help work with the league because I'm working on their committee with some of the forums, but I just think we should try to reach out so we're not conflicting.
When you say reach out, you're talking about schedule coordination.
Schedule coordination so that as much as we can, we're not competing with each other.
Thank you. Commissioner Adegome, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask a quick question to Commissioner Holmgren. I believe the feedback cards have a space for the public to identify if they have an idea about something that they would like to see as a charter amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so is that something that we can repurpose during whatever our breaks look like, whatever our schedule looks like for the rest of the year? Those could be used to gather that feedback from the public on an ongoing basis when we think about 2027 amendments.
Yes.
Thank you.
I actually do have one other comment that's kind of related to Commissioner Landesberg's, which is that there is, we had a discussion about making sure that there is a way to have CVTV engage with a discussion around the amendments that are on the ballot and that the provision of neutral information can be handled in that way too. So that is part of the plan for public outreach at some point.
Thank you. Secretary Garber.
And you might, we're maybe ready to start talking about it, but CVTV, when the executive committee met with them, they had asked us to come back in September and do just that. So I think that was the intention.
I'll open up the to county staff. Is there any input from staff about scheduling, logistics, or input that you have that might influence this discussion?
We leave it all up to you.
Okay. Any constraints that we need to know about? Kathleen, is there anything?
We're here to support you.
Johnny? No? Okay. Kevin?
Same.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Kevin, would it be possible for the PA's office to provide a refresher on electioneering requirements or electioneering issues? So as let's say we do go into a recess and commissioners they hold opinions about amendments and they want to, express their individual views for or against amendments, yet we're still seated as a commission, elected officials. It doesn't need to be now, but in the future, could you be prepared to give us a refresher on those requirements?
Sure, I'll discuss that topic with my colleague and we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner LeBrant?
Yeah, following on that, if we could have some guidance on kind of best practices around like endorsements, that would be helpful. But wanted to suggest, as much as I don't want to add another meeting to things, I wonder if we might want to convene the work plan subcommittee to kind of nail down some particulars on meeting dates and lengths and that kind of thing. Just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take that under advisement as the executive committee comes back with some refined recommendations as Commissioner Donnelly suggested. Okay, commissioners, thank you. That wraps up that agenda item. Our last new business agenda item, which was what we added, is to close the loop on our earlier discussion around the number of amendments. After listening to the comments and further discussion within the executive committee, we don't really have a mechanism to artificially curtail the number of amendments. We had some discussion about how many should go to the ballot. There was a range of opinions. It seemed to migrate towards an overall opinion that if it made it through our process and we voted to send it to the ballot, then we would let that just continue organically. Our bylaws also require us to vote on these amendments individually. So as it sits right now, there isn't a mechanism to try to curtail the number, and there's really no action item, just kind of bringing this back to the body, see if there's any final discussion. But if individual commissioners feel like there's a maximum number of amendments that should go to the ballot, they can take that under advisement as they are casting their votes on July 8th. But beyond that, the body as a whole isn't looking to necessarily take action beyond that. Commissioner Holmgren.
I have a question, which is at our July 8th meeting, let's say we've had our discussion and someone wants to propose a motion to place something on the ballot for 2027 instead of 2026. Would that be in order? Would that be out of order for the purpose of that meeting? Would that, I don't foresee that necessarily happening, but if someone in their head is looking to limit the number of amendments, that seems like that would be a avenue to go down.
Well, whether it's out of order or not is a good question. I think it's always been understood that all these discussions have been in the context of 2026, but could that motion be brought forward and would it be in order? I guess I'll take that up with Kevin later. Perhaps unlikely, but it's a possibility. So we'll come back at our next meeting with a more refined answer to that. Commissioner Landsberg.
So in our town hall, Mitchell Kelly, who did our financial audits, just pointed out in our town hall that amendments will cost less on this ballot than next year's ballot because there won't be as many issues.
Correct. Secretary Garber.
So right now we are sitting at 11 amendments. And if Commissioner Hamlicks is voted in through code, we're down to 10, which, there have been other charters, commissions that have put 10 on there. And my opinion is that we have done all this work. Yes, we're going to have a final vote on them, but I think that we should move all 10 of them forward.
Thank you. I think to act on your recommendation, we would do nothing other than to proceed with our plan because we don't have an alternative other than to proceed as we're planning. Commissioner Gomez, do you have a comment?
This may or may not be for this part of the discussion, but I was curious, Chair, if you intended to seek or to ask the Commission for, how do I put it? Clearly, voting these through to drafting some of them were almost unanimous, some of them had a bit more of a split of votes. Is that what we expect for the vote to send them onward to the ballot? Do we expect that the Commission votes along the lines that they have on the merits of each amendment throughout the process? Or I think I heard you say earlier in this session that we'll be going one by one. Is that correct?
Correct. Each amendment will be voted on individually on July 8th.
Okay, so it's not a packet of amendments which will be sent.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I would wrap up that part of our discussion and close this topic by just saying that we will proceed to vote on July 8th with the amendments that are before us on that date, and there's no other action required. Commissioner Garber, did you have something you'd like to share as well?
I just wanted to show you all what an 1117 ballot would look like. And they would have a stub on the top. If we had to go to an 1117, they have never used one of these before, but the elections office, they're talking about it already and considering it. So I just kind of want you to look, kind of see what we'd be providing to the voters. So it is quite a bit. I'll leave it at that.
Is the belief that the number of amendments sent by the Charter Review Commission is the sole deciding factor? Because there's a lot of other things that will be on the ballot. Is this basically going to be pinned on us exclusively?
I think it is, yes, because there's only one other jurisdiction, and I don't want to share that because I don't know how much, but they've got all this stuff that is happening in the primary, the top two, they go to the November. They know all those racers. There's only one other jurisdiction that is considering some kind of bond or levy, I believe. And that would fit on 8.5 by 17 easily, but with 10, they can do a lot. They can make it smaller font. They can do it more columns. They're going to try to work whatever they can to fit it on 8.5 by 17, but they're concerned 10 amendments would put it to an 1117.
10 amendments when combined with everything else that other jurisdictions are planning.
Correct.
Commissioner Landisberg.
City Councilor Paulson was at Ferry Village today, and he indicated that there might be a charter amendment proposed by the city on what to do with their vacancies.
So they might be the reason to go to 11 by 17. Okay. Thank you, commissioners. I believe that ends our discussion on that topic, which then brings us to the end of new business. Our last item then is good of the order. I have one topic that I'll bring up. I will not be participating in person on July 1st. I will be participating remotely. And because of that, I've asked Vice Chair Haas to chair the meeting that day. Are there any other items for good of the order? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Klein.
Second,
Second,
Haas.
Commissioner Good.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.